The space station Kareth Prime floated silently above the purple gas giant, its massive rings spinning slowly against the endless darkness. Commander Velox of the Zirathi Empire stood on the observation deck, his forearms crossed proudly over his scaled chest. Behind him, secured by energy chains that hummed with power, was the greatest weapon the Empire had ever created. They called it a Dracovar, a bioengineered beast that combined the DNA of 12 different predator species from across the galaxy. It stood 15 meters tall, with scales harder than starship armor and fire glands that could melt through bulkheads. Its 6 eyes glowed red in the dim light, watching everything, calculating, waiting. Velox had spent 300 cycles training this creature. He had raised it from a small hatchling, implanted neural control chips in its brain, and spent countless hours breaking its will. The Dracovar was his masterpiece, his path to glory in the Empire. With this beast, he would conquer worlds that had resisted Zirathi for centuries. Today we demonstrate the power of the Dracovar to the High Council, Velox announced to his crew. Bring the prisoners. The guards dragged 3 figures into the observation deck. 2 were Corvani, a weak species with soft blue skin and large eyes filled with fear. But the 3rd prisoner was something different. It was a human, a species the Zirathi had only recently encountered. The human was smaller than the others, with brown skin and dark eyes that showed no fear at all. "What is that creature?" Velox asked, pointing at the human with one of his lower arms. "A human, Commander. We captured it during the raid on the frontier station." They call this one Marcus Webb. He was a trainer of animals on his homeworld. Velox laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the chamber. An animal trainer? How fitting. He can watch a real master at work before he dies. Marcus said nothing. He simply watched the Dracovar with a curious expression, like a farmer studying a new type of crop. This annoyed Velox greatly. Prisoners were supposed to be afraid. They were supposed to beg and cry and make his victory feel complete. "Release the beast," Velox commanded. "Let it hunt these 3. The Council will see its power through the broadcast." The energy chains fell away from the Dracovar. The creature stretched its massive wings and let out a roar that shook the entire station. The 2 Corvani prisoners screamed and tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. The observation deck was sealed. Velox raised his neural control device, a small rod that connected directly to the chips in the Dracovar's brain. He sent a command through it, directing the beast to kill the prisoners slowly, to make a good show for the watching council members. But something was wrong. The Dracovar turned its 6 eyes toward Velox instead of the prisoners. Its massive head tilted to one side, and a low growl rumbled from deep within its chest. The neural control device in Velox's hand began to spark and smoke. "What is happening?" Velox demanded, pressing buttons frantically on the device. "Obey me, beast. I am your master." The Dracovar took a step toward him, then another. Its claws scraped against the metal floor, leaving deep grooves in their wake. The creature's eyes were no longer glowing red. They had turned a deep, burning orange, the color of pure rage. "Commander, the neural chips are malfunctioning." One of the technicians shouted from his station. "The beast is rejecting the control signals." Velox stumbled backward as the Dracovar advanced. 300 cycles of training, 300 cycles of dominance and control, meant nothing now. The creature he had created to be the ultimate weapon was finally turning that weapon against its creator. "Gods, shoot it!" Velox screamed. The guards raised their plasma rifles and fired. The energy bolts struck the Dracovar's scales and bounced away harmlessly. The beast did not even flinch. Instead, it opened its massive jaws and released a stream of white-hot fire that turned 2 guards into ash in an instant. Chaos erupted on the observation deck. Crew members ran in all directions, trying to find cover that did not exist. The Dracovar was everywhere at once, its tail sweeping through control stations, its claws tearing through walls, its fire consuming everything it touched. Through all of this, Marcus Webb remained perfectly still. He watched the destruction around him with calm eyes, studying the Dracovar's movements, learning its patterns. The two Konvani prisoners huddled behind him, somehow understanding that this strange human was their only hope of survival. Velox found himself cornered against the main viewport, the stars of the galaxy spinning behind him. The Dracovar approached slowly now, savoring the moment. It had waited centuries for this, waited through all the pain and control and humiliation. Now it would have its revenge. "You cannot do this," Velox whispered. "I created you. I am your master." The Dracovar's response was another roar that cracked the viewport behind Velox. The commander closed his eyes, waiting for the killing blow. But it never came. Instead, a new sound filled the observation deck. It was soft at first, barely audible above the alarms and the screaming. But it grew louder, cutting through the chaos like a blade. Someone was whistling. It was a simple melody, the kind of tune a farmer might whistle while working in the fields on a peaceful morning. The Dracovar stopped. Its massive head turned toward the source of the sound. Marcus Webb walked forward slowly, his hands raised and open, the whistle continuing to flow from his lips like water from a stream. "Human, what are you doing?" Velox gasped. "Run, you fool!" Marcus ignored him. He kept walking toward the Dracovar, his eyes locked with the creature's 6 burning orbs. The whistle changed slightly, becoming lower, softer, more soothing. The Dracovar tilted its head again, but this time there was no rage in the movement. There was confusion and something else. Something like recognition. "Easy there, big one," Marcus said softly, his voice carrying across the silent deck. "Easy. Nobody here is going to hurt you anymore. I know what they did to you. I know how much pain you have carried. But that pain ends now." The Dracovar made a sound that was almost like a whimper. A creature that could destroy starships, reduced to making sounds like a frightened child. Marcus reached out his hand, slowly, carefully, giving the beast every chance to pull away. "Your master thought control meant breaking your spirit," Marcus continued. "That is not how it works. You do not tame a creature by crushing its will. You do it by earning its trust. You do it by becoming its friend." His hand touched the Dracovar's snout. The scales were warm, almost hot to the touch, but Marcus did not pull away. He stroked the creature gently, the way he had stroked 1,000 animals back on Earth. Horses, dogs, lions, elephants. He had worked with them all, and they had taught him the one truth that beings like Velox would never understand. Strength meant nothing without kindness. Power meant nothing without compassion. The orange glow in the Dracovar's eyes began to fade. It settled onto its haunches, its massive wings folding against its back. Its tail, which had been thrashing with deadly force moments ago, now curled around Marcus's feet like a cat seeking warmth. "How?" Velox whispered. "How is this possible?" Marcus turned to look at the Zirithi commander. His expression was calm, but there was steel in his eyes that made even the wounded Velox take a step back. "Your people have conquered 100 worlds," Marcus said. "You have built weapons that can shatter moons and armies that can darken the skies of planets. But you have never understood the simplest truth in the universe." "What truth?" Velox asked. "Fear is not loyalty. Control is not respect. Every creature in this galaxy, from the smallest insect to the mightiest beast, wants the same thing. It wants to be understood. It wants to be valued. It wants to know that it matters." Marcus turned back to the Dracovar and scratched beneath its chin. The creature made a sound that was almost like purring, a rumble that shook the floor beneath their feet. "You created this magnificent being and filled its life with nothing but pain and commands. You treated it like a tool, a weapon, a thing to be used and discarded. And you wonder why it finally turned against you." Velox had no response. He simply stared at the human and the beast, unable to comprehend what he was seeing. His entire worldview was crumbling around him like the damaged walls of his observation deck. The emergency doors burst open, and a squad of Zirathi soldiers rushed in. They raised their weapons at the Dracovar, but Marcus held up his hand. "I would not do that if I were you," he said calmly. "This creature and I have an understanding now. If you shoot at either of us, well, I cannot promise it will stay calm." The soldiers hesitated, looking to Velox for orders. But the commander was broken, his spirit as shattered as his control over the beast. He simply shook his head and slumped against the cracked viewport. Marcus guided the Dracovar toward the emergency shuttle bay, the two Kovani prisoners following close behind. The soldiers parted before them like water before a ship's bow. No one dared to challenge the human and his new companion. "Where will you go?" one of the Corvani asked as they reached the shuttle. "Home," Marcus said simply. "We both have a lot of healing to do. But we will do it together." He climbed into the shuttle, and the Dracovar folded its massive body into the cargo bay behind him. It was a tight fit, but the creature did not complain. It simply rested its head near the cockpit, keeping one eye on Marcus at all times. As the shuttle pulled away from Kirith Prime, Marcus looked back at the damaged station one last time. Somewhere aboard that station, Velox was trying to explain to the High Council how he had lost control of the greatest weapon the Empire had ever created. How a simple human, a mere animal trainer from a backwater planet, had done what 300 cycles of conditioning and control could not. Marcus smiled and began to whistle again. The Dracovar made a contented sound and closed its eyes. Outside the viewport, the stars stretched into lines as the shuttle jumped to light speed, carrying the human and his dragon away from the Empire and toward a future that neither of them could have imagined. On 100 worlds across the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. The Zirathi's weapon had turned against them, and a human had tamed the untamable. Species that had lived in fear of the Empire began to whisper new words. Words of hope. Words of possibility. Words that had been forbidden for generations. If one human could do this, what else might humanity be capable of? What other miracles might they perform if given the chance? The galaxy was about to find out, and nothing would ever be the same again.